We're on page Kuf Tes Vov in Igeres HaKodesh, chapter Yud, or letter 10, in the middle of the chapter, at the beginning of a new paragraph. The Balatanya here, as with most of his letters in this section, which is the fourth section of Tanya, talks about the importance of giving tzedakah, and particularly giving tzedakah to people in Eretz Yisrael. These aren't just, practical letters. This is part of Chasidus. In other words, if it's put into Tanya, it's part of Chabad Chasidus. And Chabad Chasidus isn't just do A, B, and C, and D. Chabad Chasidus is Chabad. Why are we doing it? How are we doing it? When are we doing it? Are we doing it properly? In other words, the philosophical aspects of tzedakah are explained in these chapters. And Shabbos, I took out, there's a full volume today, probably of 300-400 pages, of the Alter Rebbe's letters, Igeres HaKodesh. The introduction is about 70-80 pages from Rabbi Ber Levin, the main librarian at 770 at the library. It's fantastic. I mean, I know him personally. He's a genius. He knows Shas, Shulchan Aruch. He put together the new version of the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. That's his work. I mean, he's a very gifted person. And he's been writing, the history of Chabad in various ways. And at times he gifts us by writing an introduction. Well, to these letters, to this volume, he writes an introduction, and it's really phenomenal. So over there, the Shabbos, I looked a little bit and saw what he has to say about Igeres HaKodesh. And what I found out, or maybe reminded myself of, is that these letters, as we have them in Tanya here, are sometimes not the full letter. At times, the section of the letter that has do, and therefore do this and this and this and this, is not included here. Why? Because this is a book of Chasidus. This isn't a manual like, let's say, Mesilas Yesharim. Mesilas Yesharim is known as a book of Musar, but besides that, it's very much oriented to Nikiyos, Zrizos. In other words, be clean, and therefore do this to be clean. Now, of course, it gives you chazal about being clean, but its orientation is more practical. Chasidus of the Baal Shem Tov in general, and especially of Chabad Chasidus, its whole idea is to understand what I call divinity, in Hebrew, Elokus, from the word Elokah. To understand God, to understand Hashem. That's what the study of Chasidus is. And mind you, you've been around and you're involved with other Hasidic groups, and there's a breakdown in this today. There's a big breakdown, and therefore, just one second. Therefore, it's become very popular now with Hasidim from other Hasidic groups, and they remain other Hasidim, come and listen to what they call in Eretz Yisrael, especially mashpiyim. So let's say Rabbi Elimelech Biederman, who's a Lelev Chassid, he says clearly, I am not a Rebbe. I'm not acting like a Rebbe. I don't want to be a Rebbe. I'm a Chassid who's sharing what I learned. So today they call those type of people mashpiyim. So Shabbos, we had someone from Bet Shemesh, down the road from where you guys live. His name is Rabbi Erlander. I don't know if you heard the name. Whose father, I understand, is also like a popular mashpia, but older. So this fellow was here. A wealthy Satmar Chassid brought him to his son's ufruf and wedding. And meanwhile, our chevron, our shul, benefit from him giving a shir. And then, towards the end of after Shabbos, I drove over to another shul where he was farbringing. I couldn't get in. That's how packed it was. And everyone there wore streimlich and white socks. And what is he saying? What is he talking about? Alter Rebbe, I'm telling you what I hear. Alter Rebbe, Rebbe Rashab, Alter Rebbe, Rebbe Rashab, Rotze V'Shuv, all the concepts that we've been learning in Chasidus Chabad all these years. This is very popular today, especially in Eretz Yisrael. In America, you have pockets here, pockets there of these, what they call Mevakshe Hashem. There's, they're mostly, younger light. They just married a year or two or so. And the more serious ones want meaning. They're Chont and Kugel don't do it for them anymore. They want meaning. They want to understand what's going on in the universe, what's going on with an neshama. This is Chasidus. This is Chasidus. Chasidus isn't just clapping and dancing and crying, and that's all a result of Chasidus. But without the study, the philosophy, the understanding of these ideas, you have the trappings, the outer trappings. So, I don't want anyone to walk away thinking, oh, Rabbi Dalfin's poo-pooing my streimel. Rabbi Dalfin's poo-pooing my gartel. Rabbi Dalfin's poo-pooing my beard. I'm not. Chas v'sholom. They're all holy on its own. But there has to be an inside. Okay? So when you put on a streimel, or you put on a beard, and you put on a gartel, what are you doing? What for? Why? What was wrong with, what was missing beforehand? And you have to ask yourself this question, and you have to seek answers, and you have to have discussions, and you have to study and learn. So I'm saying all this, the Alter Rebbe here, these letters that we're learning, the kind of the bottom line that what he wants from each letter from the Hasidim that he's writing to is not included in Tanya. It's not. What part, Moshe, is he including in Tanya? The philosophical part. Now, naturally, in between, you'll get a line here, a word here, and I try to elaborate that and, make it clear so that we walk away with something practical, because we're all in the practical world and we're all older and all that. But I don't want to mislead you, and that these letters are just how much tzedakah should you give? 10%, 20%, 30%. It's not about that. You don't turn to Tanya for that. To Tanya, you will turn to, why should I give 20%? How can I give 20%? And that we're going to learn today or tomorrow this week in the Shiurim, this exact answer to this question. Where Halacha says, for example, Al Yevav Zeivs, Yesem Achaimish, you're not allowed to give more than 20%. And we see sometimes people do. Isser. So it's not just a halachic question and answer that's needed, but it's the philosophy. What does giving more than an obligation mean as far as you're concerned, and as far as God's concerned, and as far as the universe is concerned? That's Tanya. That's what the Alter Rebbe brings to the table. Yes, Isser, you wanted to say something. Yes, Isser. Yes.
Is perhaps I'm not understanding, or I need clarification. What, according to Chabad Chasidus, is the purpose of learning Chasidus? Granted, it's an essential part of Chabad Chasidus, but what is its purpose? Is it Torah Lishma, just like every other part of Torah? We have an obligation to learn Halacha, we have an obligation to learn Chumash, we have an obligation to learn Chasidus, or is it to enhance our tefillah, or is it to change our practice? What is the purpose
Okay, I got it.
of learning Chasidus?
Good question. And your question was asked to the Lubavitcher Rabbeim, and the answer that the previous Rebbe gives, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, which I think is the one that we could relate to more, is the purpose is to change the nature of your character. Not to change your character. Because good midos are good midos, bad midos are bad midos, and for that, go learn Mesilas Yesharim. You don't need Baal Shem Tov for that. Sorry. Go learn Pirkei Avos. But to take a midah that's good, but it's natural to you, and to upgrade that, that is an avodah, and that's the avodah of the study of Chasidus. The purpose of the study of Chasidus. Now, that's the answer to your question in a nutshell. What's the style that Chabad uses to that is to understand divinity. In other words, if you want to move beyond your nature, right? Avram, I think, grew up, I think you said in Los Angeles, or everyone grew up in a certain culture, certain community, a certain way. Now you want to go beyond that. And you don't want to think Los Angeles anymore. And you don't want to think America anymore. You want to think Beis HaMikdash. Or in the Rebbe's terminology, Moshe Byers, you want to think Mashiach. Right? But someone asked me yesterday, like, what's the Rebbe's Chiddush about Mashiach? I mean, it's Ani Mamen B'Emunah Shlema. Yeah, I said, thank you very much. That's a lip service that we say. But to think this way daily, every moment, and to live this way, doesn't come from just saying Ani Mamen. So the way to get to change your nature, which is a very hard thing, is by becoming something that you weren't raised as, which is Elikus, divine. We're not raised divine. Good parents, good rabbis, good communities, but we're all like to eat and to sleep and to have money and just the basic, right? Comes along the Baal Shem Tov and says, Einoi gnu vadoi. All of that has to be from that perspective. What does that mean? You know what that means? That means that within all the pleasures and necessities, even necessities of life, you have to feel God. Not feel I need this, and I need that, and I need this, and my kids need that, and my rabbi needs that, and Israel needs that. No, you need God. And if you feel God, then things will go according to God. Now that's a departure from the norm. That is changing the nature of a midah to be transcendent. And the result is a major one. The result is, if I'm not in the mood of doing something, or I wasn't raised this way, who cares? Are you a servant of God or you're a servant of nature? That is the difference at the end of the day between a godly person, or in the terminology of the Torah, Ish Kodesh. We just read, you guys remember the Haftarah this Shabbos? What does she say? Ish Kodesh. The Isha Shenamis says, this fellow that's coming by here to stop off on his way and taking a drink and getting some food and staying overnight in my little place where I have a little table and a little lamp, right? Right, and all that. Ish Kodesh. How did she know he's an Ish Kodesh? How did she know he's a holy person? And what does it mean that he's an Ish Kodesh? Does it mean just that he's a good guy? A frum man? An honest man? No, the Ish Yashar. Ish Kodesh. she sensed in him that this is something special. This individual that I'm hosting isn't just another man, another good man, another proper man. This is a holy man. What makes him holy? What makes him Kodesh? That he doesn't live his life based on his nature. He lives his life based on Elikus, God, which transcends nature. And the language over there in one of the psukim is such, I forget the words now, zeh bezeh. So there's a famous taich, I think I told you once years ago. She knew that he was a holy person because usually when a good person, you're gonna find someone who's gonna say, To find a person that everyone says only positive about them, it's impossible, right? Well, that's what she saw about this fellow. She said, if no one has a bad word to say about him, Ish Kodesh, this man is a real holy person. And that, what? Nasha, mute yourself, please. And that itself is within what I'm saying. As long as we go with the natural way, Isser, nature has ups and downs. There's no perfection in nature. When you reach the plateau of elikus, of godliness, by studying godliness, studying Chasidus, which is godliness, divinity, then you have the ability to become like God. Mahu rachum af ato rachum. Okay, enough for the prologue here, and now we will go to page Kuf Tesvav. So the Alter Rebbe over here in chapter 10 quotes the Igeres HaKodesh that there's two kinds of chesed. One is called chesed olam, the chesed of the world. The other one's called rav chesed, an abundance of chesed. And basically, until now, he's taught us, and he asked the question, Kilei samu chasadecha. It should say Kilei samnu. It says Kilei samnu. The pasuk that's quoted is Chazdei Hashem Kiloi Samnu. For your kindness never ends. But Yoini doesn't say Samu. It says Samnu. What does Samnu go up? Simple grammar, Hebrew grammar is Moshe Kiloi Samnu doesn't refer to Hashem's chesed, it refers to us. We kind of don't end. What does that mean? Chazdei Hashem, the verse Hashem, David HaMelech is saying, it's from Tillim. It's from Tillim. Kiloi Samu. That the chesed of Hashem never ceases to end. It'll always be here for us. So it should say Samu, which means doesn't end, doesn't cease. Why a nun? Samnu. That's what the Alter Rebbe, that was his question in the beginning. He's going to answer it all the way at the end. But he begins explaining this idea of chesed. Since we're talking about chesed, and again, he wrote this letter to his Hasidim in Russia, encouraging them to give tzedakah and to give openly and broadly and give a lot, because again, there was a diminishing of that. So he wants to explain to them, he explains to them what the whole idea of chesed is. So now we're at a point where he's explained that chesed, regular chesed, is a limited experience. What does that mean? Hashem, as Hashem reacts in a chesed way, is called chesed olam. It's a chesed that's associated with the world, meaning olam also from the word helem, concealment. Why? Because it has to go through channels. Torah and mitzvahs, we do Torah and mitzvahs, we cause Hashem to give us chesed, but it's limited. It's limited to what we do. Now, on page Kuf Tesvav, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain the higher level of chesed, which is the objective, and what he's going to teach us in this second section of this letter is that we are able to and need to emulate this higher level, which seems to be way beyond us, and the Alter Rebbe will give us a recipe for implementing it in our life. and then the chesed is transcendent, or in the terminology of the Alter Rebbe here, then it's on the pasuk Rav Chesed. Avram, it's not just chesed olam, worldly kindness, it becomes an abundance of kindness. Let's look. V'hinei, Lefisha mitzvahs, page Kuf Tesvav, third line, new paragraph. Because the mitzvahs nitnu lanu al yidei, his slapshus b'midas gevura v'tzimtzum ha'ora, since mitzvahs were given by investing themselves in contraction, only an emanation. Lochein droiva mitzvahs yeshlem shir mitzumtzum. Most mitzvahs have a certain limited amount. Kamoi, oire chatzitzus. How long should tzitzis be? Yud beis gudlin, 12 gudlin. Hatfilin, Moshe is a sefer, can tell you, it's ba'ayim al ba'ayim. Umeru boys dafka, square, right? If you have a pair of tefillin, and the shorosh isn't exactly square, and that's why we always check to make sure nothing's chipped, it's puzzle, it's invalid. Why? Moshe, why? The parshas are kosher. Moshe Braun wrote them. They're beautiful. They're coming from all over the world to buy his parshas. But the bias has a little chip on the corner. It's not square anymore. It makes it invalid. That's the halacha. So what do we see? That mitzvahs, as beautiful as they are, if it isn't exactly according to the shiur, the way that Chazal say it should be, it's invalid. Let's go on. The next example. V'halulav, dalit tvochim. Hey, you just came through Sukkot. You need a certain shiur of a lulav. V'hasukkah, zayin tvochim. Sukkah has to be 7 tvochim. V'hashayfar, how big the shayfar must be? Tefach. V'hamikvah, a mikvah needs to be memsa, like 80, right? What is it? The amount of water. V'chein b'karbonis. So too regarding karbonis during the time of the Beis Hamikdash. Yesh lem shir mitzumtzum lizman. They had a specific kind of animal for each particular sacrifice, and it was allowed to be eaten and for a certain amount of time. Kvasim b'nei shana. These kvasim, these goats, b'nei shana, 1 year. Ve'elim b'nei shtatshayim. These rams, 2 years. Uparim. So we see it's not just a free-for-all. Hey, I want to bring this nice fat cow to the Beis Hamikdash. Hey, wait a second. Is it kosher? You know? And how long can you eat it for? Well, it's a big cow. You're gonna have meat for the 6 weeks. Sorry, chap. You got 2 days to finish the meat. Who's gonna eat it? Oh, it's going to be about tashchas. Maybe I shouldn't bring it. Maybe I should bring just a small little cow. So what do we see? That mitzvahs, as wonderful as they are, they have gvul v'shiur. They have limitation. They have a measurement. Let's continue. And so, with your tzedakah and gemilas chesed of giving you money, although it's from the 3 pillars, one of the 3, that the world stands upon, and it says, Olam chesed yiboneh, the world is built with chesed. Now, you would think, Moshe, that if the world is based on chesed, right? Let me do as much chesed as I want. Look further. Afilu hachi, says the Alter Rebbe, even so, yesh lo shir kotzuv. There is a limit, halachically, to how much tzedakah you should give, even if your wife isn't nagging you, and says, give as much as you want. Chomesh, 20%, lemitzvah min hamuvchar. You want to really beautify the mitzvah? 20%. Not 21, 20. Umaiser, 10%. Lemida Beinin is chuli. For the average person, everyone's obligated to give meiser. V'zeh nikra chesed oilam. Says the Alter Rebbe, all of this, all these examples is called a chesed associated with the world, with oilam. Pirush, chesed keil kol hayoim. It's the chesed of Hashem all day, that invests itself in the higher and lower worlds, through our arousal below, which is how? It's by us doing tzedakah and chesed, kindness, and benevolence, tzedakah, that people do with each other. And given that the world is limited, it takes 500 years to go from the earth to the heaven, to the heaven, the sky. From heaven to heaven. Only 6,000 years is the world that we know it as it is. Because of all these limitations, there's been given a limit and a measurement to the mitzvah tzedakah, and the chesed with the Torah, like all the other mitzvahs. So the Alter Rebbe is saying here that although you would think when it comes to tzedakah, splurge, give as much as you can and go beyond. Olam Chesed Yiboneh means that the Chesed Yisr is based on Olam. And in Olam there is Shir Ugvul. There's limitation and measurements. And therefore, 10% is the average, 20% is Mitzvah Min HaMufchar, V'zehu. And so a certain amount has to be for the shear of a talus and a tefillin and everything else. So the Alter Rebbe is saying that the whole scenario, the whole scenario of mitzvahs, the way the mitzvahs we do and have in this world is a limited one. That's the point. Tomorrow we're going to learn that there is an exception to this rule by tzedakah where you're allowed to give more than 20%, and I'm going to leave you in suspense till tomorrow when we'll find out what that exception is and continue. Chevra, wonderful seeing. Yes, go ahead. Moshe, yes. Go ahead. No. Go ahead. Yoini, no?
Yeah, what about Chesed Shalemus?
So Chesed Shalemus, what you mean to say, is it no, so that, it's a good question, I didn't think of it. I mean, is Chesed Shalemus part of Chesed Olam, or is it Rav Chesed? Good question, let me think about that, because l'chayra, it's the higher level of Chesed, because being that there's no one else to take care of, but you see, you could say, Yoini, that's also Chesed. In other words, since there's no one else to take care of the person who just passed away, therefore, you are obligated to do that. So again, it's associated with a situation, a worldly situation. In other words, something happened in the physical world, and there's no one to take care of this body. Therefore, halacha says, you have an obligation. So we could say that's also under the guise of Chesed Olam. Yes, Moshe, you wanted to say something.
It's okay. Thank you. It's okay.
Why? Go ahead. I have time. Go ahead.
No, I didn't have anything. I was
Oh, okay. Anyone? Yeah, Avram, you want to say something? No. Isser, is it clear my answer to your question, what you asked before?
Yes, it is.
I want you to think about it.
Looking forward to seeing the balloons by Moshe again.
The balloons, they're coming. The Chasidus coming. It's going to be beyond balloons. It's going to be Mashiach. Get ready. Mashiach's going to appear at the Chasidus. Zai doesn't love you all. Take care. Yes.
Thank you.
What?
That's one of the reasons I started learning how to change myself.
Oh.
That was a late problem.
But remember, you want to change yourself and you want to become a godly man. Godly. Not just a good Balmidos and a godly man. You want to go beyond nature. Sei gesund. Love you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye, Benasha. Good to see you.